so much of this process is about trusting the journey and also trusting yourself. And a lot of the time you realize that you think you trust yourself, but in fact you don't. So that's been some of my work to look at where potentially I've made, it's never a bad decision because you always learn something. So I don't believe in or anything like that, but I've noticed in the past I've made decisions based on putting trust outside of myself, whereas intuitively I knew that I could make a decision based on what I felt and what I knew, but I thought somebody else knew better.
What's an example of that? Is this just with decision making where people might say, well, this business is right for you, or you should be doing more of this, or find a guy that's more like this? Like, what's an example of where
like a specific example of like not trusting myself is, I remember I had a choice to get involved with a live event where I would be speaking on stage, but I wouldn't be paid. And instead of being paid, I would sell tickets and I would be paid for selling the tickets. Now, intuitively, it didn't feel like a right fit for me. Like you say, I'm great with relationships and I love like the feeling of energy where you're like, this feels really good, let's do it.
Yeah.
And my partner that I was with at the time said, that's a no-brainer, Nick. You're going to make so much money from selling the tickets. So I think you should do it. And I was kind of feeling inside of myself, it's not right. Even if I get a lot of money, it doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
So I went against my intuition and I went with a decision that somebody else thought that I should make based on money and based on his level of success, which ultimately backfired because what happened was the event got cancelled and the person ended up stealing a lot of money off people. And then it was my brand that took the hit for that because I had recommended it. So it was interesting. It was a great learning for me on so many different levels, both in a business capacity, but primarily in this capacity of trusting myself. And it was hard because I felt all of the things. I felt guilty. I felt ashamed for making a bad decision. So I had work to do around that. And I always see that whether it is something that doesn't go to plan or somewhere where you wish you trusted yourself and you didn't, it's always a good thing. Everything is always a good thing because it always helps to grow.
Yeah. And I feel like that's just, I would call that spirituality. Like I summarize spirituality with surrender, just learning to trust in something bigger than yourself. And I feel like it really helps giving confidence because then you don't have so much pressure on you. You don't have to control everything. You don't have to make everything work. It's just like the universe has got me. And then everything that happens, you can just trust and know that the universe is gifting you. Even if it's not what you want, it's always what you need. And there's always a gift in it. And I love that reframe. But I feel like you tapped into such a valuable topic there. There were two real big ones. One was the theme of trusting yourself and not holding any times where you made a decision that didn't result in where you didn't trust yourself, not holding shame around certain decisions that you've made. And that's a really big one. And then the second part is just understanding intuition. And when I was listening to you, it was just kind of assumed that you're in touch. Like I feel like you normalize the fact that you're even in touch with your intuition. Because for me, when I was running Winning and I was like in my more fast growth business success craze days, in that time, I didn't even really, I was so blocked off and so in my head that I couldn't even feel my intuition. Like I just missed things so clearly because I feel like intuition and being in touch with spirit and that divine intelligence that flows through you, gut, feel, intuition, whatever you want to call it, is such a subtle thing. It's like the more subtle that you are and quiet that you are, the louder that voice is. And because I was so loud in my head, it was just, and busy, it was impossible to hear that. And I remember like Danny, early in that relationship, my partner, she at that time, at one point when I was growing really quickly, she just made a call that there was a dude in the business I couldn't trust. And he was such a nice guy. He was so nice. And he was the key person in my business. He was like my operations manager that managed like heaps of people in the team. And I was just like, he's just so like you're being just ridiculous. And I'm sick of these calls that you make on random people when you don't even know them. And I was all frustrated by it because it interrupted my plan. It wasn't what was convenient for me to hear this. And so he said, you can't trust him. And I was just like, it's just based off nothing. I was like, you're not basing this off anything. You're just making it based off a feeling. But that feeling is her tapping into her intuition. And she's she's so perceptive. And I was so blocked off from my intuition. And this guy, like 3 or 4 months later, ended up stealing a bunch of money. He cost about $700,000 in damages and just like sabotaged a bunch of stuff in the business. And I had no idea because I was so disconnected from my perceptive awareness and my feeling and my intuition. You at least at that point could feel and you were connected to your intuition. You just hadn't learned to fully trust it. And I feel like the reason why a lot of people can't trust their intuition is because intuition is, in my, like a way that I've recently framed it, which I really love, is aligned discomfort. Intuition is aligned discomfort. Like it's because it's designed for you to evolve. That's its purpose, because the purpose of the universe, in my opinion, is fulfillment, which is love and growth, or like connection and evolution. Intuition leads you to greater connection opportunities, but its designed purpose is to evolve and for you to grow. And you only grow in the unfamiliar. So when you do something that's intuitive, it's aligned, it's exciting, it feels expansive, it's what you really want, but it's still scary at the same time because you've never ventured there before. And so, yeah, I feel like it's really important for people to understand that around their intuition and learn to trust it. But a lot of people don't trust it because of that, the discomfort element in there.
Yeah.
And they never, and so they're always kind of suppressing their intuition because it goes against their ego and their control center and their safety center because it feels unsafe, because it's scary. And then they never form like the track record of evidence to then back it. And I feel like the power of your intuition and your ability to trust it comes off following it and realizing how powerful it is. But if you never follow it, you never realize how powerful it is.
So true. It comes from practice and it comes from listening. I did like a big 6-page spread in Psychologies magazine about intuition, like a good few years ago now, must be about 3 years ago. And that was on how do you determine the difference between intuition and fear.
Wow, that's such a cool article to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell us about it.
It's a good point that you make, because you're like, intuition is scary and it's actually guiding you somewhere. And I think that we must trust that as we lean into our intuitive knowing, the path which unfolds is going to be the right path, even if it's hard, like you say.
Yeah.
So I shared in an article that the first thing that we all have to do is get quiet, because sometimes our intuition, it's not this raw. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's like, do not get in the car, you're going to die today, something bad's going to happen, do not get in the car. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes it's like that, like just intuitive, like, whoa. But most of the time, it's this like tiny whisper, and it's like a nudge in the right direction. And it's easy to ignore, or it's easy to pretend, or it's easy to go the safe route, or it's easy to listen to someone else. But actually what you'll notice is that you come further and further away from yourself when you don't listen to your intuition. And it's like, it's amazing to know, and to know what you're here on this planet to do, and to be able to wake up in the morning and get out of bed and just be like, I'm doing the thing that I'm meant to do. And I always feel so grateful for that. And I know not everybody else has that. Yeah. But once you do start to step into your purpose, and once you do start to say yes to your desires rather than other people's desires for your life, then it becomes easier and easier.